this one. So if we just throw straight over to our next game.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Lee. I want to see the Pokemon action that's coming out. And jumping out on the right-hand side of the field, we have got the Thundurus and the Kartana, whereas the other side has got the Landorus and the Clefairy. So really interesting mix of Pokemon here. The Landorus's Intimidate is going to go off for Don, but I wonder if Thundurus is Defiant, and indeed it is. This is the ability that Thundurus finally has unlocked in the competitive video game arena, and we are seeing it here. We are in turn 0 of game 1 being activated, Lee.
Yeah, huge turn here before we even get into turn 1 for the Thundurus, getting that Defiant ability, new access to that ability through the Crown Tundra again with those ability patches, giving access to those hidden abilities that these legendary Pokemon do have access to, becoming a huge threat with that +1 attack going straight into this turn 1 here, and able to potentially get some speed control as well, known to have things like Max Airstream that are going to benefit everything on the field. But Clefairy actually making its way onto the field for Andrew, as well as it's on the same side for Don as well.
Well, that's the thing. One Clefairy is never enough, Lee. We've got one aside a piece, and they're going to help out with the Friend Guard ability from their partner Pokemon taking any of these attacks. Andrew is wasting no time, however. It's going to be Dynamaxing the Defiant boosted Thundurus, and I love that animation as it takes the Dynamax. Very powerful, almost regal in a sense, as Clefairy on Don's side goes for that Follow Me, so it's going to be taking in the attacks from Andrew's side of the field. It's going to be a Max Airstream, so speed is also going to be a factor, boosting up speed on Andrew's side, and Clefairy only just able to hang on with 24 HP from that powerful Max Airstream, and Andrew really kind of setting himself up here to make sure that he is the speediest in terms of this battle, revealing the Life Orb on that Thundurus. Landorus, however, going to go for the Swords Dance. So again, we've got a Clefairy apiece, we've got boosted Pokemon apiece. Landorus making sure it's getting its attack ready for the next turn.
Yeah, an incredible play here from Don in particular, making sure that, you know, the Clefairy is on the field for a reason. It's there to support his partnering Pokemon, and taking the opportunity while he's got the chance to get a Sword Stance up and make that Landorus very threatening, just like its counterpart Thundurus on Andrew's side of the field, that's now sitting on +1 speed and +1 attack because of the Defiant boost. And also a nice play to see the Clefairy come onto the field for Andrew, giving that Friend Guard support, which bolsters those defense stats on the Thundurus as well, making it a little bit more difficult to take down.
I am loving the choice of Dynamax Pokemon that's coming out in this Losers Right Now battle. It's going to be the Landorus coming up here for Don. And, you know, Landorus is one of these Pokemon that really benefits from the Dynamax environment. You know, we don't have things like Hidden Power Ice lurking around anymore, so Landorus is a little bit safer out there, and going for that Dynamax, getting its HP up, means it's going to be around on the field that little bit longer, particularly if Clefairy is going to help out with Friend Guard. Clefairy on Andrew's side, though, going to be going for that Follow Me, as is Don's Clefairy. They're both being very protective little companions for the Dynamax Pokemon out on the field. And Thundurus, however, is going to go for that Max Knuckle. Doesn't want to just settle for the Defiant boost. Wants to get another attack boost and also pick up a KO against that Clefairy. Even though it's not very effective, the dwindled HP that Clefairy was at just left it be a victim to the Max Knuckle. So Thundurus going to be looking really dangerous here. Of course, Landorus can go for some super effective moves into it, but Clefairy has redirected them around, and actually instead it's going to be the Max Airstream picking up a solid KO against the Clefairy and kind of leveling the speed playing field here for both of these Dynamax Pokemon. They're both going to be at +1 speed.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see both Clefairies go down that turn. I think that's the big thing on both players' minds here. It's such a very pivotal supporting Pokemon for both Pokemon on both players' sides of the field. You know, removing it is very important. It takes away the redirection that is, you know, the most annoying thing almost for players to deal with, because you can't actually hit the targeted Pokemon that you really want to. Now it's removed. The Friend Guard also removed as well. Now the Thundurus taking the advantage there to go for the Max Knuckle because of how low that Clefairy's health was, really pivotal in matching what the Landorus has done so far. So +1 speed from the Landorus, +1 speed from the Thundurus. The Thundurus is still going to have the advantage and does have access to Airstream to kind of boost its speed again here. So maybe going for that, but on Don's side we can see the Whimsicott come in. It does have access to that Tailwind, pranks the Tailwind, which will then throw Landorus ahead of everything else and maybe give it the opportunity to take something down before it can attack.
Well, Thundurus just going to go straight on the defensive and going for that Max Guard. Doesn't want to take any potential damage from this Landorus now that the Clefairy has left the field. Whimsicott going for that Tailwind, like you mentioned, Lee. Probably just wanting to get the speed advantage up for Don, but instead it's going to be the Max Quake coming out from that Landorus, going straight into the Nihilego. I believe picking up the solid one-hit KO against it. Doesn't want to target down into that Thundurus, and in all honesty, when you're a Landorus, why would you want to target Thundurus? There's not a lot that it can do to you in this stage. You might as well try and get rid of the Pokemon that are a bigger threat. You know, Whimsicott doesn't want to take any potential poison type moves from that opposing Nihilego, and it's really good from Don's perspective to be able just to remove that straight away from the field.
Yeah, and it's a really nice play there. When you think about it, probably the Nihilego maybe thinking about going for potential Trick Room there to counterplay a potential Tailwind from the Whimsicott, which would have been a really nice play. Don potentially identifying that and making sure that the Nihilego couldn't get that Trick Room play up and kind of locking the game for him here, as we do see him take game 1.
Yeah, Andrew really deciding that this wasn't going to be sort of to his advantage here, and really sort of sharp end to that match. But there was so much going on with it. You know, that turn 0, the Thundurus getting up the Defiant boost, really strong. But then Landorus going, hey, I'm going to go for my Swords Dance. I can also be a strong competitor in this match. And then suddenly they're both Dynamax. They're both dealing out huge amounts of damage. But I think Landorus having that sort of gigantic speed advantage that it got from obviously the Max Airstream, but then also the Tailwind, did just put Don at such a strong advantage going into the rest of that game 1.
Yeah, I think that the Swords Dance play that we saw from the Landorus taking advantage of that redirection from the Clefairy turn 1 was very pivotal, and how the end of the game kind of played out there. It was such a powerful play there, and knowing that I've got the Clefairy on the field, let's take advantage of it right now. We're in an awkward position because we've procced the Defiant ability on that Thundurus. Let's try and get ourselves back into this game, and he did just that and made all the right plays to kind of really stop Andrew from becoming and getting involved and getting a grip on the game from that point.
Exactly, and of course Cortana can still be a little bit of a pesky Pokemon. It can apply some good damage to something like the Whimsicott, but the fact that we know that Landorus had the Max Airstream, Cortana's not going to be able to kind of dodge out of the way of that one, and Landorus just seemed to be in such a strong position, again seeing that there isn't really a lot that Thundurus can do to deal with it. Normally it has to target down that partner Pokemon, so Landorus is just free to use its Dynamax turns as it wishes. But let's jump into game 2 and see if there's going to be any changes from our trainers here, whether maybe Thundurus is going to be able to get in on the action with or without its Defiant boost. And it's out on the field paired up with Clefairy once again. You know, it was a strong lead there from Andrew, but of course Don also led strong, but it's changed things up. It's Nihilego and Clefairy out on the field, and you know, Clefairy both being there with their Friend Guard ability, going to be helping out and can also go for those redirectional moves. The Follow Me can draw in the attacks and just protect the partner Pokemon. Nihilego as well, going to be applying a lot of pressure to that Thundurus, Lee.
Yeah, the Nihilego choice here from Don, a very nice option here. You know, both players going with that Clefairy, once again having that redirection support, which, you know, helps out their partner Pokemon to no end, especially with that Friend Guard. But the fact is that the Nihilego as well has got access to potentially something that can hit that Thundurus and the Clefairy for very super effective damage in Sludge Bomb and those rock type attacks. So Andrew not in the best position as he wants to reposition, bringing that Cortana on the field to almost try and help mitigate the threat of the Nihilego and Clefairy.
With Cortana as well getting in without having to take and intimidate, really good there for Andrew. Clefairy just going to go for that Follow Me, just drawing in any potential attacks as Nihilego goes for the Meteor Beam. Now this is a really great synergy that we have seen with Nihilego in this game at the moment. Going for the first turn of this move, it's normally a 2-turn attack, getting a special attack boost, but with the Power Herb, it's able to fully charge, going into the Protect though of that Thundurus. So really great Protect there from Andrew, and of course very interesting for us to see Nihilego go for that combination.
Yeah, it's a really nice combination, like you say, Lou, there with the Power Herb making that once 2-turn move, a 1-turn move. It makes it extremely potent, and I think a nice Protect there just to mitigate that item altogether, and then getting the Cortana onto the field at the same time really does put a lot of pressure on, almost like Don was doing in that first turn against Andrew. Andrew's kind of reversed the tables a little bit, bringing the Cortana, which then pressures both the Nihilego and the Clefairy very well.
Nihilego just going for the Protect here. As you mentioned, that Power Herb can only be used once, so the Meteor Beam combination can't be seen again in this game unless the Nihilego wants to go for the 2-turn charges. Thundurus going to do a little bit of damage there to the Clefairy as Cortana goes for the Smart Strike, targeting down into the Nihilego, but going into the Protect. Clefairy going for the Sing. It does avoid onto that Cortana, but you know, Clefairy is going to be a tricky Pokemon for Andrew now. Is it going to go for Follow Me, or is it going to go for Sing?
That's a question, and that's where the mind games come into it, and you've got to make a decision. What is it going to go for here? The redirection makes it very difficult. I think if you're Cortana, if you've got something like Smart Strike, it's a nice option just to go for into the Nihilego here, and potentially if we do see a redirect from the Clefairy, you're going to be able to remove it from the field. But Don going to be aware of this. You know, at the stage in this tournament, it's not going to be something that'll go past these players. So wanting to probably preserve it a little bit longer will make the most sense, as we are going to see our first Dynamax Pokemon of this game.
Yeah, Thunderous going to be Dynamaxing once again. Don not going for Dynamax on this turn, preserving it potentially for a Pokemon in the back, as that Clefairy does go for the redirection, wants to protect the Nihilego. Thunderous going for the Max Airstream once again. Going to be able to pick up the KO against Clefairy. Don doesn't have the protection now that Clefairy could offer the Nihilego previously, and it will now be sort of a sitting target for something like that Smart Strike coming out from the Kartana going into the rest of this turn. Thunderous going to take a little bit of damage from his Life Orb, of course. Kartana going for that Smart Strike, going straight down into the Nihilego, does pick up the solid KO. We of course know it's not Focus Sash, we know it's Power Herb, and now Kartana is sitting in a great position because it's going to get its Beast Boost as well. And Andrew just sitting in a place where he is getting these boosts constantly, whether it's attack or whether it's speed. And if Don's bringing in that Landorus, I can tell you there's a Pokemon on Andrew's side that's going to be happy about it.
Yeah, definitely. If the Landorus comes in again, we can see that Defiant boost activate on the Thunderous, and obviously it's in its Dynamax form as well at the moment, so not the best time to activate this. Not going to be really able to take it down with the Landorus, and we've already seen the Thunderous at +1 speed and also now +1 attack, as well as that Kartana that just has obtained a Beast Boost from knocking out the Nihilego. So Andrew doing all the right things in this match. It's a very quick game, again, very offensive, but I mean, shutting down the threats very quickly and bringing the Kartana like he did in that turn 2 really turned the tables and made it difficult for Don to get the board position he kind of desired. And once the Thunderous is on the field for Andrew, it's very difficult to bring in and utilize that Landorus without getting punished for it. And I feel like at this point, like I said, it's a really awkward time to bring it onto the field, and I feel like he will get punished for bringing it in right now.
Well, of course, Don does still have access to his Dynamax, and I think this is certainly the stage that you need to go for it. You need to be able to start dealing a lot of damage, and I don't necessarily think the Landorus was safe enough to go for that Swords Dance here. It maybe needs to try and get its boost another way and just start picking up some strong KOs before Andrew's able to start steamrolling back through his team. So going for the Dynamax Landorus here, I think, is really key. Whimsicott going for that Tailwind, as it did in game 1, make sure that Don has the best speed advantage that he can get. And indeed, Landorus able to move first now, outspeeding the Thunderous, going for that Max Rockfall, targeting down into the opposing Dynamax Pokemon and able to pick up the KO against it. So that's what Don really needed to do in this situation. We didn't, if you're Don, want the Thunderous to be able to start dealing big damage, maybe going for a Max... Oh, it doesn't actually pick up the KO! Thunderous is still hanging on. I was about to say, you don't want to go for a Max Airstream into the Whimsicott, but it's not even going into Whimsicott. It is going into that Landorus, and again, the speed going up on Andrew's side of the field. Thunderous does now fall victim to its own Life Orb damage. Of course, the sand being on the field as well would have dealt with it also, but I mean, what a turn coming out there, being able to survive. Kartana going for the Leaf Blade, but Landorus able to survive as well despite the double up, and of course Landorus isn't going to be affected by the sand, so a momentous game there. Oh my goodness, Lee.
Pivotal turn. The survival there from the Max Rockfall. I was like you, Lou. I honestly thought that was the end of Thunderous there, but that survival was so important to get that Max Airstream off and now give Cortana the +2 to put it kind of in line with the Landorus almost and outspeed it going into this next turn, especially with the Follow Me redirection that you've still got with your Clefairy to come in. It's got the Friend Guard support as well. All it needs to do is just sit, Follow Me, and let this Kartana clean up this match because it's in a great position to do so now.
Yeah, you said it there, Lee. Kartana in a really great position. That Dazzling Gleam not going to threaten it one little bit. While Clefairy can redirect away any of the attacks from that Landorus, Kartana is free to go for a Leaf Blade into it. We can see the sort of dwindled HP on that Landorus, just leaving it so vulnerable to anything that Kartana wants to throw at it. And you can see Don there locking in the forfeit. He knows this game is over and he wants to start planning for the game 3. And you know, this is the losers bracket here of sort of the North American regional, and it's now quite precarious for these players. They are one game away from either staying in the competition or being knocked out of Players Cup 2.
It's very nervy at this point, I think, especially for both players, and it's probably showing through a little bit in how they're approaching this game. It's very kind of offensive and very switch oriented. You get that board position you desire and you lock out your opponent very quickly. Now we saw Don do that in game 1 and then Andrew do that in game 2, so it's going to be a very interesting game 3 to see how both counterplay these kind of offensive threats. The Clefairy performing pivotal roles on both sides of the field with that redirection, the disruption that it provides, and the Friend Guard support as well is incredibly good for both of these Pokemon. And obviously there's probably a little, I don't know if there is a little bit of defensive investment on that Thundurus, but that huge survival in game 2 was massive to close out that game and just get that final airstream off, really turn the tables in the latter stages of that game. If you didn't get that off, I think it would have been very difficult to close out, especially the Cortana in maybe a little more of a difficult position, even though there was the Clefairy to come in at the end and close things up there.
Yeah, I mean, the HP bar went down so quickly on that Thundurus. I was just jotting down the observations of the match, and then suddenly, oh wait, there's a max airstream, it's still there. And I think that really is the story of this match so far. It's been the kind of pivotal roles. You've already spoken about the Clefairy, but of the Landorus and the Thundurus, you know, in game 1, the Thundurus was obviously so pivotal with the Defiant boost, but it actually turned out to be Landorus was the key Pokemon able to start picking up those solid KOs and put Don in a situation where Andrew wasn't able to remove it from the field. It was just going to be there sort of sitting around. And then on the flip side in this game too, that Thundurus being able to survive and deal out that big damage and then just start sort of putting the last Pokemon in the back in a position to be able to sweep through. You know, Cortana then had a really easy game. Just kind of goes to show that they really are the key Pokemon in this game 3. You need to think about how you're going to take down your opponent's Landorus or Thundurus, depending on obviously which side you're on, because it's such a pivotal Pokemon for them in this matchup.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think you make some incredible points there for what these players should be looking at going into this final game. It all gets very cloudy though when you throw Clefairy into the mix with this, because then it's the mind games of, does your opponent go for the redirection this turn, or do they go for the protect and stall out a turn of your potential Dynamax? But like you say, Lou, I think you've got to maybe try and look past that a little bit. Bring something like the Nihilego that we saw from Don's side of the field, or the Cortana from Andrew's, where they've got that immediate threat onto the Clefairy where you can do big damage, potentially remove it very quickly from the field, as well as putting on a little bit of pressure onto these two, Thundurus and Landorus as well, that are the kind of key elements to both these players' teams. There's a lot to look at, but it's really, we saw how much the Landorus dominated in game 1 after getting the Sword Stance, and then in game 2 the Thundurus kind of took over there. So it's going to come down to which one is going to be able to push ahead and kind of finish this game out in game 3. It makes it difficult bringing the Landorus when you've got the Thundurus on the field, but we saw Don mitigate that slightly with the Sword Stance in game 1, so maybe that's something he can try and go for again in game 3. But at this point, all information's on the table. We know how these players are trying to approach these matches, so it's going to be, I think, the most interesting game out of all 2 so far, because this is the one where the real kind of the mind games are going to be the most difficult for the players to come over.
Well, speaking of mind games, let's see how they play out and jumping into this game 3, because not only do they have to try and play around their opponent, they are playing for their lives in this tournament. So everything is at stake. There's that additional pressure, and they need to kind of put it to one side and focus on the game in front of them. There's going to be a few shakeups here. Not for Andrew though. Thundurus and Clefairy out in action once again, but Don changing things. Clefairy, but there is a Charizard as well, and Charizard, a really interesting Pokemon. We know it has a Gigantamax form as well, and that residual damage can be so critical and change a game so quickly if you're able to pick up a KO here or there.
Yeah, an interesting pick here with Charizard. We've seen how influential the Gigantamax Charizard can be in previous formats in the Sword and Shield series, but the thing is here, it's a really nice Pokemon to kind of check almost the Cortana that we saw be quite influential in that first game. The other issue is, though, bringing the Charizard, it is very weak to the Thundurus. You don't activate the Defiant ability, that's great, but are you able to do enough damage to the Thundurus? Are you able to get the G-Max Wildfire off potentially and really utilize this Charizard with the support of your Clefairy here?
Well, once again, very explosive starts here. We've got the Dynamax Thunderous again here for Andrew, and I think it has really worked for him. It's certainly, when you look at the way he's trying to run this team, having the Thunderous there to be able to go for those max airstreams and get the speed advantage up has been a really great strategy for him. But Don is also going for that turn 1 Dynamax, and as lovely as it would be to see a Dynamax Clefairy, Charizard is certainly more optimal here. Going to be able to potentially set up that Gmax Wildfire, deal some good damage, and then also get the residual effects going. But as you mentioned, Lee, it doesn't want to take any electric type attacks, which is why I think having that Clefairy on the field for Don is fantastic. He can just redirect them. But no, as I say it, Clefairy goes, hold on now, I'm going to go for a helping hand. I'm going to make sure that this is a super powerful move coming out of my Charizard, maybe to try and remove the opposing Clefairy from the match. Thunderous goes for that max airstream, targeting down into the Charizard, does about 40% of the damage. Obviously not going to be dealing super damage, but able to get that speed boost up on Andrew's side of the field. But this does leave the Charizard free to go for something like a Gmax Wildfire. And that's exactly what Dawn has gone for, going straight into that Clefairy. It is helping hand boosted, and it is enough to pick up the KO. So Dawn no longer has to worry about that Clefairy. And I absolutely love this play, because Dawn saw that maybe the max airstream was coming out. That's what Andrew kept going for previously. So Charizard's going to be safe from any electric type attacks, and now Clefairy is still on the field for Don to redirect them away and keep that Charizard safe while it's in its Gigantamax phase. It can still use those Dynamax turns.
Yeah, a great play there from Don, you know, not going for it. It's like the mind game all over again. We do see the Nihilego hit the field now, but the Gmax Wildfire is in effect, and you still have access to that redirection from the Clefairy here. Now the Charizard's done a part of its job. Can it do its next job in taking down the Thunderous here? We've seen the Thunderous go for the max airstream, but it's not going to matter too much, because you're probably not going to be able to knock out the Clefairy in one hit from your Thunderous. And maybe have enough with the Life Orb recall that the boost that it's got there. But is the Nihilego going to double up into that slot? That's the interesting thing going into this next turn.
Well, not for this turn. Goes for a Protect, and Clefairy goes for that Follow Me. So going to redirect whatever move Thunderous wants to go for here. It is indeed a Null Max Airstream, so just making sure that it's got the +2, but critically that Nihilego is speedy as well, because we know Nihilego can apply a lot of pressure to the Charizard with something like the Meteor Beam there, targeted down into it, Rock-type moves. It's something Charizard does not want to take at all, but it's actually gone for the Max Quake, so targeting down into this Nihilego. So wise Protect there from Andrew. Not only does it allow Nihilego to get the speed boost, but protects it from this potential KO. And critically, Don is going to be getting those special defense boosts, but a potential double up into a Charizard below 50%. It's not going to be able to deal with too much from two potential super effective moves.
Yeah, and we already see these Gmax Wildfires stacking up already on the field for Don. You know that they're doing so much damage here on his side of the field. It's something that is ticking down every turn, and you've still got 2 more turns to deal with it. The Nihilego is in an alright position now, because if you're Andrew, you can go for the max airstream again into the Clefairy and then remove that from the field, and then Nihilego's kind of free to deal with the Charizard, which is what you ideally want. Do you max guard with the Charizard and potentially just let your Clefairy go down to reposition the next turn? That's something that Don may be thinking about here. He may be thinking about preserving the Clefairy for later on in the game, knowing how pivotal that redirection and that Friend Guard support is.
Exactly, and Don actually going to withdraw the Charizard. Again, we don't normally see the Dynamax Pokemon going back into its Pokeball before the Dynamax turns it up, but Don knows he might need that Charizard a little bit later on in the game to deal with some of the Pokemon on Andrew's side, and getting the Whimsicott here on the field allows Don to be able to go for that Prankster Tailwind. Clefairy is going to be KO'd by the Max Airstream here, with a critical hit as well for some style points there. So Andrew has got such formidable speed up on his side of the field, and it actually is, I think, at +3 now for that Thunderous, puts it in a really dangerous position for Don. Nihilego going for the Meteor Beam though, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this having the same synergy as Don's one here. Going to get that +1 special attack before it's able to speed up the 2-turn charge using that Power Herb and fire off the powerful move going into this Whimsicott. So Don identifying that Andrew was going to go for that synergy, pick up the KO against Clefairy, and then the Charizard is vulnerable to this sort of rock type attack. The Whimsicott, however, revealing the Focus Sash, able to survive that. And like you mentioned, Lee, those sort of wildfire residual damages are dealing lots and lots each turn. They are really starting to stack up on Andrew's side of the field.
Yeah, and that's what's proving really pivotal for, I think, Don, and a really smart decision to bring the Charizard into this match, because it's not something, when you look at Andrew's team, it makes the most sense. You've got threats like Nihilego that can really knock you out in one hit, and also Thundurus as well. If you decide to bring your Landorus that maybe wants to deal with that Nihilego, then you're making the Thundurus a lot more powerful through that Define ability, which makes it very difficult, and it kind of restricts a lot of choices. But Don being very bold in his choice with Charizard here, knowing that he's got that support from the Clefairy and showing how important these G-Max Wildfire residual damage are. You only need a little bit more damage now onto this Nihilego if you are Don on Andrew's side of the field to remove it, and then the Nihilego can potentially deal with the Thundurus pretty well after this point. Now we are going to see the Whimsicott use its Prankster ability and get a Tailwind up on the field.
Yeah, but the Tailwind is no match for that. Thundurus going for the Wild Charge into Nihilego, picks up the solid KO against it. +3 speed from those Airstreams, really paying off there for Andrew. Doesn't have to worry about the Nihilego targeting down his Thundurus. Sludge Bomb as well coming out from the Nihilego on Andrew's side, easily going to be able to pick up the KO against the Whimsicott there. Nihilego also going to get that Beast Boost, and this leaves Don with just his Charizard left. And, the Charizard's going to come in its regular form. Nihilego obviously able to apply some pressure to it, but it won't be able to use that one turn of charge. And of course, the Thundurus as well can apply pressure with its electric type moves. But did you see the HP bars due to those wildfires there, Lee?
They're nearly, I think if we had another turn of Wildfire to go, it would be enough to knock both of the Nihilego and the Thundurus out. And this is why the G-Max Wildfire, the secondary effect on this Gigantamax move is such a strong attack. And we've seen throughout this format so far how well this attack does. We are going to see the Charizard protect here. It makes the most sense. It is the slowest thing on the field at the moment, and it will be for the extended remainder of this game.
Yeah, well, Nihilego going for that Sludge Bomb. Thundurus as well targeting down the Charizard as they would do. But it looks like the Wildfire is overly.
Just needed one more turn. If you had one more turn of it here, this game would have been maybe a little bit different. But Andrew playing this so well, and like you said throughout this whole game, Lou, it was pivotal